Good.
Are you on the board?
No.
You want to be?
No.
Okay, I'm going to start our live stream. So we're going to be on live on our YouTube channel.
Gary, you look like you're a little bit sunburned.
A little bit of windburn from today, riding sled.
Oh,
Hey, Sibley, Gary, did you get that clock at the school? Because it says 5 o'clock. It's just like our high school clocks.
Gonna change it.
All right, so we are live. So Barry, if you want to get started, we can go.
Welcome to the 875th meeting of the Board of Directors. Roll call, please.
Oh, I didn't even prepare a roll call sheet. Mr. Gary Sibley.
Here.
Mr. Barry Willett.
Present.
Sarah Ashley.
Here.
Mr. Toby Gendro.
Here.
Jacob Terrio.
Here.
Mr. Kerr Susi.
here.
And I see that Keith is just joining us. And we also have our 2 student reps. Caitlin Daigle is here. And Emily Willett is here as well. So welcome to all of you. And there's Mr. Keith that just joined us.
Hi, Keith.
Hello.
I'm gonna go ahead and share. Good, Keith. I'm gonna share my the agenda. So your screen is gonna change a little bit. Does everyone see the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Barry, is that big enough for you to read from?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We do not have any adjustments to the agenda,
Good.
so we can move to item 3.
Do we have a motion to conduct remote meetings pursuant 1 MRSA 403-8 public proceedings through remote access during declaration of state emergency due to COVID-19?
So be it.
Second.
First by Kerr, second by Gary.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 That's
Does the thumbs up count?
yes. Thumbs only, though.
Wrong finger. Public participation, anything?
Let me see if I have any chat requests. There's no chat requests. I'm going to check my email.
So Ben, if somebody has some questions, even later on, if they wrote them down, we would get back to them, right?
Correct. So I did put, and I'll show you on the screen. So this was the link on the agenda, and at the bottom, I put information here on how the public can access us. They can either call the office here, and I would answer the phone during our meeting. They could send me an email, or they could actually chat in on our YouTube channel if they were signed in. So those 3 ways for the public. And if any of those come in at any time, I can let you all know, and we can stop and address those questions as they come in. Right now, we have nothing.
Sounds good. Well, did everybody have a chance to read the 873rd special meeting minutes?
Yep.
Looked at it.
Anybody have any
Yep.
questions?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Does anybody have any questions?
No.
That's-
Seeing none, all those in favor?
That's all in favor. We also have the emergency meeting minutes, the one we conducted at the,
March 16.
at the tech center.
Make a motion to approve the emergency minutes.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
That's affirmative for everyone.
Mr. Superintendent?
So I did want to take some time to give you some updates, COVID-19 updates. I think this is going to be a rolling agenda item for a while. Hopefully shorter than longer time, but while we're in this state of emergency for sure, we're definitely going to have this as a regular agenda item. The first one I wanted to talk to you about is our remote learning plan. Just talk about where we are to date since we presented it to you all on March 16. I'm going to switch my screen here to our phase 3 guidance document. This was what we rolled out to the teachers about a week and a half into our remote learning plan. So we had already been out of school for about a week and a half. And at that time, we were focused on phase 1 and 2 of the plan. Phase 1 was just finishing up work that the students had been doing the week prior to being out of school. Phase 2 was a couple of weeks of enrichment while we prepared for phase 3. So our phase 3 guidance is based on 4 components. The first planning component is teacher-student communication. And we really wanted to have something concrete to give to the teachers so that, you know, that we didn't want it super prescriptive, but we wanted to have something that kind of guided them so they were all working under the same framework. So it actually came across as a checklist that all the teachers got, and they got to work under that framework. I found a communication method that works best for me, my learners, and their parents. So they spent those first few weeks working with the students on what works and what doesn't work. Obviously at the middle high school level, that looks very differently than what it looks like at the elementary level. But all in all, we wanted them to have a flow of communication that works. They've all made an attempt to establish initial contact for each student. Any student or parent who was not responding to our texts, our emails, our letters, our calls, those names have been given to the building administrators. The expectation is that students communicate with them at least on a weekly basis. So as long as a student is checking in on a weekly basis and providing work from what we're giving them, that's the minimum. Some teachers are well above that, and some learners are well above that. We do have daily check-ins for some teachers. But we wanted, for the purpose of knowing if students are on the grid or off the grid, we wanted to make sure that students were communicating with us at least on a weekly basis. We tried setting up some kind of office hours. The initial expectation was we wanted teachers kind of office hours to be from 8 to 2:30. We found out that was very difficult to adhere to because a lot of working parents work till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, get out of work, and they want to help their kids at that point in time. So there was a lot of communication going on well beyond 5 p.m. A lot of correspondence going well into the early evening. So we've since told the teachers, listen, adjust your schedule accordingly for when you're needed. We want you accessible to the learners, but we don't necessarily want you tied to your computer or your phone for 12 to 15 hours a day. So, you know, a lot of teachers have adjusted that. They know that, you know, some of the learners are not connecting at 8 a.m. So they might be connecting starting at 9. They might not be connecting, you know, during lunchtime or dinner time. So they've adjusted their schedules to meet the needs of their learners. And then if a student no longer communicates, that's where we, as an administrative team, we've been collecting data on this. We have a list of learners that are either off the grid. They to begin with, they were not able to connect with us. So we had been providing some paper documentation of resources. But more importantly than the ones that we're providing, you know, resources to a different way, the ones that have just shut off, the ones that have decided that school's over and I'll see you next fall. That's a concern. It's not a large group of students. I think district-wide, out of our 850 learners, I think we're talking maybe 30. And maybe even a little bit less as we go through the weeks, because now we're reaching out. We're shutting off laptops. If students are not connecting, we can remotely shut them off. That seems to really wake them up when their laptop no longer works anymore. So we've got ways of communicating with that. I have multiple inquiries out to the State Department on whether or not we can start with truancy processes to get some of these learners to connect. I have not received any feedback from the State Department yet on whether or not that can happen. So I continue to ask. I would love to, enact some kind of truancy protocols and notify DHHS, notify law enforcement, so that we can connect with some of these learners. So that's what we've done for for the component 1 with respect to communication with parents and students. Plan component 2 is about learning resources and expectations. We've quickly shifted from originally what was a blend of non-technology and full technology. We've gone a little more heavy on the technology just because there were some fears with the exchange of work documents, the exchange of books, the exchange of materials between the home and the school, whether or not there'd be a potential to contaminate a household or a work environment based on that exchange. So we've worked with families to really look at an electronic exchange of documents. If an elementary teacher wants to get a specific worksheet or worksheets out to students, those are being digitally sent to the students, encouraging them to print them out at home, work on them, and then take a picture, scan them back to their teacher. So we're having that digital exchange. I know our middle high school teachers are doing a lot of work with, Google Classroom and just Google Doc exchange and that type of work. So for the most part, that looks really good. We do have some families that are still requesting paper copies. We have arrangements with those families on how to do that and how we're, going to let the materials sit for a while and not collect them right away. So we do have that going on, but we're really trying to push the technology flow of information back and forth. And the teachers are really good about, making sure that not everything needs to be scanned and sent back. We're picking and choosing the most essential learning, the things that we really want to provide feedback to the learners on, and so on and so forth. There's all kinds of accounts that are now free from all the 1,000,001 vendors across the United States that want to offer us free programs and free services. And we've told the teachers, listen, stick with what you know. Don't, just because everything's free now, doesn't mean you have to throw 1,000 different programs at kids and say, try this, try that, try this. Stick with what you know, and that's what they've primarily been doing. Component 3 is about the work, artifacts, and evidence, making sure that we're still collecting information from students that we deem valid. Again, that is an exchange primarily from an electronic exchange of information. A lot of the kids know how to put things in their Google Drive and share that with their teachers, or they know how to submit in Google Classroom or in Empower, put in their locker. They know how to do a lot of that. And then with the younger learners, the teachers are using different apps that are able to exchange those documents as well. Seesaw, and there's a whole bunch of different apps that are being used where parents can quickly take a picture of the work and exchange that. I think it's fortunate for us that we're not one of the schools across the state of Maine that has traditional grading practices. A lot of these schools are struggling with how to grade things, and for on the school side, how to verify that work is authentic work from the students. A lot of schools are now moving to pass-fail systems because they don't know how to bridge that gap. For us, our students are on a learning continuum. They're getting from point A to point Z through proficiency of certain standards, We're going to focus on the essential ones while we can from this distance learning method. Teachers are being really creative with, where the students, are working on something. I've seen my daughter doing math examples where the camera is over her math work and she's showing her teacher exactly what she's doing. So we're being really creative with how to show that the proficiencies are being made. We're realistic that this is not a substitution for classroom instruction, but we're able to continue to provide feedback to the learners and make sure that that we're not going to move to a pass-fail system. We don't feel district-wide that that's necessary at this time, because we can just pick up and go based on where we left off in our continuum of the standards work, which is a good thing. And the final piece is our plan component 4, which is this distance instruction. What does instruction look like when your teacher is not in the classroom? How can you teach new things when it's when you have to do so through technology? And really working with the teachers on their comfort level, their technology level, but also on what the students are going to respond to best on. And it's across the board. Initially, we talked about, do we assign one specific way to do things? Does everyone Zoom, or does everyone, do a Google Classroom, or does everyone? And I think when we limit people to things, we stifle the creativity and the professionalism a little bit. We wanted the teachers to work with their students on what works for them and what works for the students as well. So I think giving them that voice and choice, you see it very different from different teachers. I think we could be collecting more data from the students right now, which I hope to do in this next few weeks, collect data from the students about what's working for them and what's not, as well from the parents. I think we need to collect data from them as well about how this is working. But for now, for what we've been able to do in a few short weeks is nothing short of amazing. So we've given some guidance to the teachers that we want them to focus on what's essential. We wanted them to start with weekly lessons, but a lot of teachers quickly broke that down into multi-lessons throughout the week. Some are daily. They're offering some optional daily lessons that are recorded and you can go back and watch later. So there's some different flow from different teachers. Some are doing live things like this. Some are recording, so they're doing a flipped classroom where they record themselves teaching a lesson and then broadcast that later. It's not live, but it is their teacher teaching a lesson. So it's all across the board on what our teachers are doing right now. We wanted them to do what works for them, stay in their comfort zone, remember the audience, work with the students, have a plan for students who can't connect. We're always working with those people. And then definitely have to work with the special education teachers, because we're delivering new instruction, essential learning. The special education teachers have to be part of that plan in connecting with the special education learners on exactly what's happening, especially if they're in an inclusive classroom where they really need that special education teacher touching base and making sure. And I know our Title I teachers are doing the same thing, making sure they're touching base so that our learners who do struggle have some supports in that nature. It's not perfect, but every day we improve and we get better. Some things that we realized quickly when we pushed this out is we were, I think, far ahead of a lot of our area schools in Aroostook County, really far ahead from across the state of Maine. I think we set the bar high, and we did some amazing work. To ask our teachers to do what they did in 2 days' notice is just unbelievable. And I don't know if you're paying attention to the news right now. Maine is getting some high reviews, some high raving reviews on what they've invested in technology the past 20 years and how it's really paying dividends now. Maine is one of the leaders in this remote learning initiative. States like New York, there's so many states right now struggling, really struggling, because their learners don't have devices. They're not one-to-one. And then the connectivity issues in rural parts of their states are far worse than ours. Ours is not perfect, but it's far worse than what we have. So I think we've done a really good job in getting this plan out. So that was our remote learning plan. We sent a guide for students and learners and their parents as well to kind of help them summarize. So this was more of a question answer type thing. This went out to all the families as well to talk about what to expect as a student, what to expect as a parent. And then finally this week, through communicating with our administrative team meets weekly. We meet every Wednesday, just like this, from 1 sometimes to 3, 4 o'clock. And we talk about what's working, what's not working. And then furthermore, Giselle and I meet with the Aroostook County superintendents every other day. So we get to talk with them about what's working and what's not working. Listening to the struggles that our families are having right now. And that looks very different when you're a family with elementary students versus a family with high school students. It looks very different. But working with those families on the struggles they're having, working with our teachers on reinventing this education. It's reinvented. This is a whole new profession that we've done in such a short amount of time. And then trying to be realistic with what we're doing. So we decided to push this out. And then this week we decided to adjust our schedule, still a 5-day schedule. We wanted to make sure that we're communicating that first and foremost with our staff. You know, this is not a 3-day schedule. It's not a 4-day schedule. It's a 5-day schedule, but we want the high connectivity in teaching those students to happen Monday through Wednesday, unless the learners want it more, and each teacher is gauging that as they go. The Thursdays we're using for filling in holes. There are a lot of gaps that have been created from this distance remote learning plan. Remember, education is about equity, and when we have all the students coming into a classroom, the playing field is somewhat level because they're all in that classroom getting the same message the same way. That's no longer the case. We cannot guarantee the same equity because of connectivity issues, because of family dynamics, because of so many things. So we want to make sure that on Thursdays, we're dedicating some time for not only filling those gaps, but allowing our high achievers to soar even further through some enrichment. And then Friday, we're asking teachers to assign non-technology work as best they can, and then focus on physical education assignments and requirements on that day, working on just their health and their mindfulness. And you know, our parents right now are teachers. I mean, a lot of our parents are teachers. So parents assigning home projects to their kids. You know, my daughter will be painting our house with me on Fridays starting next week, or as soon as the weather gets better. So, you know, I think we need to encourage less screen time on one day a week. The Friday was also really important to us because we were listening to our teachers flat out from Monday through Friday behind a screen, no planning time anymore, no time to do any kind of planning whatsoever. And then Friday, out of gas, you know, we're out of gas because of the week that just happened. And then weekends were becoming planning time to get ready for Monday again. I think we owed it a little bit to our professionals to give them Friday to front load some work to their students on non-technology work, and then our teachers can be planning on Friday for the upcoming week. We wanted to make sure that we could do that for them. So in a nutshell, that is our plan, where it is right now and how we've adjusted it since we presented on March 16th. Questions? I just had a fear that I was on mute the whole time and nobody was listening to me. And yes, no, yes. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, okay, good.
That was long, but you couldn't have taken anything out. So it was good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board members have any questions on that? How
I'd
are we
be
doing,
interested.
board members, with you and your families? How are things going?
They're crazy.
Hey,
Yeah.
crazy times.
I'd be curious about the IEPs. What's the feedback we're getting from parents who have children on IEPs?
Jill, do you want to?
So
Oh,
we're
you're on
having-
mute, Jill. You're on mute. Still mute. Wait, okay, you're good.
You should be able to hear me. Okay, so we're having all our meetings. We haven't missed one. We're having all our annual meetings. And the state said that we can, if a parent prefers and doesn't want to meet this way, that we can push it off until we resume school. And we're complete, we're making the IEP plans as if we're going to be back in school. So we're not changing every IEP. And that's what the state said to do. And I'm joining every Zoom meeting with the state. We have one almost every day. So I think everybody's in the same boat. We have a few IEP kiddos that we are having a hard time to get them to do work. And I'm trying to reach out to those parents, and some parents are having a hard time as well. We're just telling them to do whatever they can do, and we're going to catch up the kids whenever we resume school again. Try to get them back on track.
One thing that each teacher has done, they've submitted a phase 3 remote learning plan. They've submitted a plan to their administrator. So each teacher has submitted a plan of what they're going to be doing in this remote learning, how they're communicating, how they're collecting evidence, how they're scoring their students. So they have the full plan. So the administrators have that plan. Special education teachers have also submitted a plan so that we can cross-check on what's the tie-in from special ed to regular ed with respect to those kiddos who are in both lands. Our special ed teachers also are assigning work to their educational technicians on Tuesdays and Thursdays when our ed techs are not in the food service program. They are working remotely from home, and they're being assigned connecting with learners as well. We just want to support as best we can. It's hard for some, it's easier for others. But we're definitely not ignoring our neediest population. We want to make sure we're connecting even more with that population than anyone else. Robbie?
Yeah, I just, at the elementary school, we're having grade level meetings every week, and sometimes more often than that when we're starting to struggle with specific learners. Some of them do have IEPs, and the special ed teachers are part of those meetings with each grade level. So, we're working to meet the needs, and I know a lot of parents have reached out when they do have struggles, and we're all kind of working together to make sure we're meeting people's needs. So we're very sensitive to that.
One of the things that we wanted to make sure as an administrative team that we were mindful of is we need to conduct ourselves as administrators the way that we want to model for our teachers to conduct themselves with their classrooms. So we have regular admin meetings. I've asked the administrators to have regular staff meetings with their staff. So the administrators are always meeting with their staff this way or whatever way they feel comfortable. Like Robbie said just a minute ago, Robbie's having his A-wing meetings, his B-wing meetings, C-wing meetings. These business as usual, as best that we can do it, so that we're continuing to make sure that we're communicating about which learners we're concerned about, which teachers have some needs that we need to work with them on that. We have some folks that were scared to death of technology, and we've turned them 360 degrees over because they've actually realized they could do this, and it's just been amazing. Some of our most fearful people have been, rock stars in getting connected with their learners and reaching out. So it's been a wonderful, as best that we can. We know this is not perfect, but it's been wonderful.
And I've never been referred to as a rock star.
Oh yes, Kerr, for sure. I hear stories, Kerr.
More than stories, they're realities.
Kerr, did you want to share the day in the life of a teacher?
Well, I can tell you that my day doesn't start at 8 and that doesn't end at 2:30. In reality, it starts more like 6 in the morning and goes off in a time till, 8 o'clock at night, whatever. In 2.5 weeks, I've had approximately 2.5, 3 weeks, I've had well over 3,000 emails that I've been dealing with from students. And in the process of being able to teach the content area where you're teaching a foreign language, it's not an easy topic to be addressing. But I've had to learn how to Zoom, and I've had to learn how to use QuickTime, and I've learned Google Classroom, and Flipgrid. And so those are some of the programs that I've been involved in. I'm very, very fortunate to have Sharon Chassis as my biggest tutor. She has spent about 2 Sundays ago. Carl kept walking around every now and then because it was Sunday morning. It's like, what the hell are you doing on the phone? Are you doing on the computer with my wife at this point? But she gave me about 2.5 hours of tutoring. And then again, mid part of this week, she gave me another 2.5 hours so that I could really learn how to do a Google Classroom. So I've got all my advanced students involved in Google Classrooms, but it's it's a hoot. This is not an easy ordeal if you're trying to teach content area. I mean, it's great to say that you're going to go from 8 to 2:30, but that's just not going to happen. And most of your teachers are just not going to do that. They're going to, you've got people that are dedicated up and down the valley. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing people that are giving 150%, and they're also learning technology because, I mean, as an instructor, yes, I know the content area that I need to teach, but in terms of technology, yeah, I know how to email and I know how to make an attachment and all of that type of stuff. But when you're talking about suddenly a student sending you some sort of JPEG a photo that comes out of their out of their phones, and you're expected to correct that assignment, it's virtually impossible to do that. It's a crazy ordeal. So I've had to really hone in on all of that, and now I just basically they've got to give me a Google Doc, and it's got to come into the Google Classroom so I can actually look at it, evaluate it, assess it, grade it, and give them feedback relative to how that all goes. But I just do not accept any of the photo stuff any longer.
It's a lot. It's reinventing, it's relearning, but
Yeah.
one shining, one shining light at the end of this though is I think snow days may be a thing of the past. I think this might be the future of snow days. If we can ensure that we have better connectivity in the future, and I think there's some motion on the State Department level in working with some of these internet providers. We're getting some ideas that something is in the works right now for the farthest remote regions of Maine. And I think if those things can happen and we can ensure that connectivity is available, now whether or not a family chooses or chooses not to get that service is a different story. We can work with those on other things, but I think snow days might be a thing of the past, which might be a good thing.
The one thing that I wanted to add,
Yep.
Ben, is in terms of those kids that have basically zoned out, they're no longer with the program. I think that a lot of it was a lot of that was happening because parents weren't aware that kids weren't responding. So you'd email the kid or you give the kid a call, and suddenly they would claim that they never got the email. And then when you said, well, listen, let me talk to our tech person here and find out why you're not getting the email, suddenly their tunes seem to have changed a little bit. But now the big piece of what we're doing is, especially for those kids who have in fact zoned out, what we're doing is that when we send an email, we also copy the parent, so the parents also get it, because it's easier for a student to suddenly delete the email so the parents don't see it. So now, even if they delete it, mom and dad will in fact get the email anyways. And that's been working out real well, because I've got a lot of parents that are actually communicating with me, and they're on top of that. The other piece is we do an awful lot of conference calls, and we do speak to a lot of parents, far more than I've ever had in the last 10, 15 years of being in Madawaska. Spend a lot of time on the phone, but the parents are extremely receptive. So that's really, I think it's a collaborative effort from everyone, and people are putting in the effort.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue to work on what's not working. I mean, so many teachers are working really hard at learning new technologies. we still have to work with some folks that we know are not connecting, 100% with the learners, or the expectations are not quite high enough. I mean, those things happen. And you put out a directive and a guidance. People are going to understand that so many different ways. So we continue to work with these folks. We continue to listen to what parents are saying and adjust accordingly. It's not perfect, and it couldn't be in such a short amount of time, but I think we have put ourselves in a good place to at least continue a level of education that is at least going to, at the end of this school year, we would have been far worse off if March 16 or March 13 would have been our last school day, and then we would have had nothing else moving forward. Under COVID, we also had student connectivity, and I've spoken to that quite a bit. We've done surveys to the families and the learners. I know Mr. Doucette has about 185 student responses to student survey, where they sent out finding out what's going on, what are some struggles. So that's been beneficial as well. We sent out surveys to families on their connectivity. When we get to the bottom of it, I think we're talking, like I said a while ago, about 30 students that have chosen not to connect. We're working on a plan of what to do with that, and natural consequences, folks, is going to be my answer to what happens. If I have a senior right now that checked out on March 13 and thinks they're going to get a diploma, I don't know that they have a realistic expectation of how life works. On the same token, if I have a first grader who's not connecting, well, we've got to reach out to these parents. We've got to connect with these parents and show them what the effects of that is going to be if your child gets no education from March 13 till next fall. So it's working on a case-by-case scenario. I would love to be able to tell you exactly how this is going to look like with regards to remediation and mitigation, how we're going to fix all these issues. I don't know. I don't know that we're going to be able to hold summer school. I don't know that that's going to be a possibility. I don't know if we're going to be able to hold potato harvest school, for remediation. I don't know if that's going to be a realistic possibility. I would love to say that we're going to have, Zoom meetings like this all summer long, but these are the kids who are not connecting right now. So I'm not optimistic that they're going to connect over the summer when it's 85 degrees outside. So we're always working and thinking these are problems across the state. We're going to continue to listen to what others are doing for solutions. I do know, though, that we're going to have a concrete plan exiting out of this school year on how we're going to account for all of the lost learning that has happened. Even though we have a great plan, there's a lot of learning lost for our kiddos. So we're going to have kindergarten kids going into first grade that aren't ready for the rigor of first grade. It's not their fault. It's just, they missed a third of their year in person in class. So we're going to have a plan on how we account for that when school gets back in session in the fall. And if school doesn't get back in session in the fall because we have another wave or we have concerns still, we need to have another level on this remote learning plan that really takes an account of how we scoop up the kids that are now neediest and fill in their holes while we're still providing some education for the ones that have done a really good job. I don't know what that looks like right now, but I know that that's going to be the focus of our work as we go through the remainder of this school year. It's going to be the number one priority of how we plan for that, because that's going to be really important moving forward. Any
Hi,
questions?
Ben. It's Jake.
Yeah, go ahead.
How much snail mail are you sending out to parents of students who aren't doing work, for example? Like, are you sending them, for example, the seniors, you could send them, applications for the high set, just to say, by the way, hey, this is your alternative. I'm just curious, how are we reaching our population?
We just got a list together of those learners that are most needy, the ones that the calls are not getting through, the texts are not getting through, the emails are not getting through. We're going to be sending certified mail to these families to start I want it certified. I want to make sure that they're getting it. I want to receive the receipt, just so they understand the importance of this remote learning plan, what we can offer them for services. If internet connectivity is the issue, we have solutions for that. We have our Khajiit bus Wi-Fi systems that we have some portable ones that we can go set up somewhere and help a family out for a short amount of time. We have Consolidated that has some offers right now for free internet. We have Spectrum with the same thing. So we just got to connect with these. So there will be some certified mailings going out this week to make sure that the ones we're most concerned with are getting the message. Other than that, the ones that we've been connecting with, we're seeing that now this is flowing. Now they're realizing this is what school looks like, and we're not concerned with them as much. Just those that are not connecting. Does that help, Jake? Okay, thanks. School lunch program continues to go 3 days a week. We had some information coming out from the State Department that you could move to a bulk delivery process if you so choose. Bulk delivery looks like one delivery for a week's worth of lunch. We met as a team, our school lunch team, talked about it. We don't feel really comfortable with bulk delivery at this time. Because we don't know there's enough room on the buses to get those deliveries out if we would do that on a weekly basis. The buses are already quite full on a 2-day delivery. But B, we can't ensure that a family is eating that food for a week's time, or the students are eating that food for a week's time. And that's kind of scary. At least now we can ensure that we're delivering 2 days worth of meals every other day. And we know that we're providing that breakfast and lunch for those 2 days, and we're hopeful that the students are eating it on schedule. With a bulk delivery, that's scary stuff. So right now we don't have COVID-19 in our region that we know of. We don't have any staff members that are ill, so we're going to continue with our Monday, Wednesday, Friday delivery schedule, and each of those days has 2 days worth of meals, breakfast and lunch. So that's our plan for now. If we have to adjust, we will. We do plan on serving lunch during April break. April break is supposed to be break also for our ed techs and our kitchen staff. They normally don't work April break, so we've offered it to them. It looks like the kitchen staff all want to work. It looks like the majority of ed techs still want to work during April break. So we're not going to deliver on Monday because that's a holiday. We're going to do a Tuesday and Thursday delivery on April break for next week. To date, we have served 31,000 meals in MSAD27. That's in 20 days of school lunch, 31,000 meals. That's an average of 775 lunches and 775 breakfasts per day. And remember, we deliver 2 on each day. So that's 775 times 2 each day that we deliver. Our reimbursement claim for the month of March, which was only 11 days of meals. So we started on March 17 and ended on March 31st for March. We claimed $55,000, $55,370. And that actually got paid out today, so it's real. So amazing. The amount of meals that we're serving, the reimbursement on that is coming through. We don't know how long this will last. We don't know how long we can maintain. If our staff is healthy, we're going to continue doing it because it's a need. This is the summer lunch program, so this could potentially run into the real summer lunch program. At that point, does it come back to site-based meals only? We don't know yet. We don't know what COVID-19 will look like in our region at that time. So we're playing it on a week-by-week scenario. If we can continue doing it every week, we will. And if we can't, then we're going to have to reassess and decide what happens then. But we know there's a need. We're going to get the reimbursements for it. So we're going to continue it. Questions on lunch?
Good.
With regards to school year calendar, I did I did push out an email to all of you with a suggestion on perhaps ending the school year earlier. That was based on conversations with Aroostook County superintendents and then our staff. And the reason the 2-week period was mentioned was simply because so many schools in the state had taken a 2-week period off in the middle of May. They had taken 2 weeks off with no education. And we felt that perhaps our adjustment period was going to be at the end of the year to kind of phase out. And by giving that 2 weeks at the end of the year, we could provide our teachers with 2 weeks of professional development to make sure that the learning plans, the remote learning plans are tidied up and solidified if and when we need it in the fall. Although we've done a great job, our teachers only had 2 days to prepare for this. And then they've been adjusting on the fly, but they're so busy all day that they don't have time to really work on adjusting their remote learning plans, individual remote learning plans to meet the various needs. So we thought at the end of the year, giving more PD time, letting the students out a little earlier for their summer break, and then giving some PD time to the teachers was something we thought would be a good idea. That's not our decision to make. It's the board's decision to make. And I don't think we should decide now. I think we should maybe collect a little more data around that with student surveys and parent surveys, that type of thing, to figure out exactly what's working, what's not. But it was just an idea that we threw out to say that, we think that there's some benefit to planning at the end of this school year in the event that the fall, this all happens again and we have to really, really make this remote learning thing more of a permanent reality for the short time than we want to admit. So that was the thought around that. Again, we can have discussion about it tonight. I don't think we should decide tonight. I think we need to take 1 week at a time and see where, right now, Aroostook County's been really, I don't want to say lucky, but we haven't seen a real outbreak. I mean, there's a couple of known cases of this. I don't know if our mindset will change around, what things look like if now we have cases in Fort Kent, Maine, in Wallagrass. And, I don't know what that's going to look like. I hope it doesn't happen, but I think it's going to change our thought process. So I think deciding today on what may happen in the short future, I don't know that we should do that. But I did want to throw it out to you board members because it's a decision that you're going to have to make that, what the end of the school year should look like or will look like. Thoughts on that?
I have one question, Ben.
Yep.
If let's say, I don't know, next meeting, if you could actually tell us what you're going to be doing for professional development.
What that looks like?
What that looks like. And I think that myself, I hate to end the year earlier because the students did fall behind.
Yep.
Seniors didn't really make a whole lot of difference, but I think that if there is any professional guidance of any kind, and especially the last week, it should be geared to making sure everybody knows how to do what they're having to do right now in their teaching method.
Right. That's a good idea, Barry.
Yep.
Yeah, I can get, our next meeting is 2 Mondays from now, right? I think we meet on the 27th.
Can we meet? Can we meet in next month, like early next month?
We can adjust if we don't want to make it in 2 weeks, we can adjust accordingly. I just have to be mindful of my other meetings with the other, but I mean, it's super flexible now. So, I mean, we can do this every night, Barry, if you want.
I don't know about that, Ben. I don't know if Emily's going to be here every night.
But I for now, I'll hold it on. I'll keep it for April 27. Then we can decide in a week or so if we want to keep it at that or if we want to push it back. But yeah, absolutely, we should talk about what the end of the school year looks like. I understand the fact that for so many families and for so many students, having a routine is important. So do we continue a routine longer than shorter to ensure that some of these kids who have no connection to anything else continue to have connections. Maybe those June weeks looks a little bit different. I know Mr. Coletta had a Ways of the Warrior assembly the other day. He had a Facebook Live for all of his students and had a school-wide assembly, on Facebook Live. Maybe we just get creative with how we can have school-wide events a little bit different, so the students stay connected and have a regular routine. So maybe we can get creative with that as we start to enter in June. We all know that June is kind of like tidy up everything month. It's not a whole lot of brand new, really rigorous learning. It's finishing out that school year, making sure that all the essential things are turned in and whatnot. So like I said, I think we just need to think about it a little bit more. And then as we get further and we start to hear more about what's going on in the state and what other districts are doing, and maybe the commissioner will have a recommendation, maybe the governor will say something, I think we'll be better off by just deciding at a later time. The letter I did send out to parents did say that we are having discussions about the end of the school year. So they know that it's not necessarily going to be sooner or later. It's just we're having discussions. There are some folks struggling with this remote learning plan. Just go on Facebook right now and just go, just check out what parents are saying. I mean, some people are struggling. Some students are easily adjusting to this because they have the learner agency to be able to do this. I'm sure, Emily and Caitlin are doing well with this because, these are two young ladies that have demonstrated that they have learner agency. You could throw anything at students like this and they'll be able to achieve. Some students, however, don't have the supports, they don't have the skills, and every day is just survival mode. And it's hard to expect them to go check their email for the Zoom meeting link with the certain password for secure. It's hard for some learners to be able to be expected to do that without supports.
I have one more point, Ben. The 27th of this month is the day after a whole week's vacation.
Yes.
It's a Monday, so that's why I think we should change it.
Okay, so what I'll do after the meeting is I'll send an email with some alternate dates and we can decide. Does that work?
Works for me.
I
Other questions on school calendar?
I just have some comments as far as, we have this proficiency-based stuff that we're doing that whether people like it or not, it's telling us where the kids are learning it. So it seems like we should get some feedback from the teachers as far as for timing, instead of arbitrarily picking some amount of days, saying how many more weeks do you need to get the targets, get the instruction out that you need to meet for the typical year.
Yeah.
Probably is different for the elementary versus high school, but at least having some range of what teachers feel is viable.
Yeah, I think it comes down. It's a good point. I think it comes down to the equity standpoint, and I'm just going to use, because I'm working every day across the table from my wife, who's teaching elementary 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th graders. It becomes a challenge to. Okay, you have a group of learners that are hard to connect with, and we know who they are, and that's always going to be difficult. We have a group of learners that are connecting, doing the best they can, but they're not getting any support because mom's working, dad's working, or whatever the situation is. And then we have a group of learners that mom and dad are checking every ounce of that work before they take a screenshot of it and send it back. So we don't know how much of that is authentic student work, and the fear is that the gap is just going to widen between these different groups, and it's how to provide, how to get evidence from students that is theirs, and be able to say without a doubt that is demonstrating a level of proficiency. I think when they're doing live things like this, they're able to tell more, because they're asking questions to the students, getting feedback from them on the fly. It's kind of hard to plagiarize something when you're right in front of them like this. It's just how to wrap your head around that. But I agree with you. I think speaking with our teachers about how much time do you need? What does this look like for you in your classroom? It's definitely part of the data we got to collect. Absolutely.
Can we, for our next meeting, have an idea of what this fall would look like to establish a baseline where students' gaps are? Or is that too soon to ask for that type of information?
Can you repeat that, Jake?
Can we, for our next meeting, have like how would we establish a baseline of student gaps in their knowledge base from where they should be? Like, is that too soon to formulate that kind of plan?
I'm going to tell you right now, with our STAR testing, we could get that baseline, absolutely, because each student has been STAR testing 3 times a year. It provides a trajectory of what their learning is and where they should be on the next test meeting, but we can't get them to test right now. So it's hard to get that. I can tell you the first week that school is in session, whenever that is, we're going to get that data, take that snapshot and see, did those bars will way down or did they maintain? I think that's going to be the best way we can do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. We good to move on, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Mr. Superintendent.
The next thing under superintendent is senior projects. I did invite Ms. Jocelyn Sose here, who is the senior class advisor. Mr. Coletta is here as well as Mr. Doucette. They've been having discussions about senior projects, about what this looks like in remote learning, what this is going to look like, because this is a requirement for seniors to graduate. So I will turn the floor to these folks who know much more about this than I do. Don't all speak this. Mr. Coletta, I'm gonna say you can start us off.
Okay, so we met with the senior team a couple weeks ago, and we feel that the senior project has just been a rite of passage for the last 15 years, and it's really been very important to keep seniors engaged throughout their senior year. Make every minute count right up until the end of the year. So one thing we're thinking about is, trying to do much like this. It'd probably look like a Zoom conference for each senior. And then we would have probably more just the senior team members on board. Usually we have a community member as well, and parents if the kids want them. Often the kids don't want their parents. So, so it would look very similar to this. So the kid would be very authentic learning. The students would give their presentations to us and also produce their product. I guess right now, Ms. Saucier, right, we're trying to lock down some dates that would work in our schedule to make sure that everybody could fulfill this requirement.
Ooh, I'm losing people, I think, here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, some of the projects had to be altered a little bit because, some of their products were going out into the community, putting on, day camps with kids and doing some certain interviews and things like that. So I've spoken to a majority of those kids that had to alter their products, and we came up with alternatives. So they seem to be working. Last week, their job was to show me their progress on their product. And the week before, they were to share their slideshow via Google Slides. So I could provide feedback on their notes and their slides. I didn't get all of them yet, but I've contacted all those that didn't send me their slideshow, and supposedly they're on their way. So yeah, this week, what they're doing, I'm trying to show them how to Zoom, record their Zoom presentation so they can practice. So we went over that today. Hopefully by Friday, I'll have everyone have had a practice presentation. And like Mr. Coletta said, I'm setting up a schedule for their presentations. I'm not sure how that's going to work exactly yet. If we only have a panel of 4, we will be doing this every day for 7 days for like 7 hours straight or something like that. So we're going to try to do a couple of different Zoom meetings or Zoom rooms maybe, so we can have more than 4 panel or more than 1 panel at a time. So I'm trying to get volunteers to do that, which I don't think I'll have a big problem. So yeah, that's where we are right now. I think it's going well for those who are on top of things. Again, there are some kids that aren't, but I'd have those kids in school as well. You know, I'm dealing with the same kids that aren't doing their work here online as I would be if we were in the actual building. So it's not really new, you know, we just deal with them, call the home, call parents, and they're getting their work done for the most part.
So my only question was, people that had to interview people and had to do certain things, and the fact that there is an alternate plan or an alternative plan is exactly my question. So basically they'll have to, like life, you have to change what you're doing. We had to change what we were doing 3 weeks ago.
Exactly. And I think, you know, I was talking to my husband about this today. Unfortunately, this is going to be the new norm. These kids are going to have to go through this, probably more regular than what we want it to happen. You know, they might have to do distance learning. They might have to leave college and do the same thing that our college freshmen and all the way up to seniors had to do and do remote learning. So they will probably have to do Zoom presentations in the future. So I'm hoping this will be good practice for them. And just like for us, we had to change our ways. And I know the kids don't want to present like this, but I really think it's going to be good for them. Of course, it's not ideal, and we'd rather be in the classroom and, you know, with our regular panels. And it's such a great night when, you know, senior presentations come around. And it really saddens me personally that we're not going to have that experience and those kids won't. But this is the next best thing. No one asked for this. So we're going to do what we need to do. And right now, the kids are really doing a good job rolling with the punches and
I have
being
one more
resilient.
question, and that question is because you're the senior lady. What sense do you have from the senior class on what type of graduation that they want?
Well, I've talked to officers and last week, and we're hoping that we have a regular graduation, but also mentioned that they'd like to maybe have, sorry, my internet connection is really unstable, so if I black out, it's not because I'm ignoring you. But they were mentioning how they might like have an outdoor graduation, and possibly do a big barbecue afterwards if we're allowed to, you know, have those big groups of people at that time. And it might happen in August. We don't really know, but that's their thoughts, is they'd like to have something maybe on the soccer field or at Riverside Park, and then have a big celebration afterwards with family, of course, themselves, not just by themselves. So that's their thoughts right now.
Thank you very much.
Jocelyn, do we ever survey the students on senior projects, what their overall thought about the process is? I know we're always looking at, you know, the senior projects have been modified over the years. Do we ever get a sense of what works, what doesn't work, what are they connected with, what are they disconnected with? Do we ever do that?
I don't think recently. I don't think so. I mean, other than just talking to them personally, but never a formal survey. But that might be a good thing that we could do.
I'm just wondering if we can time, because now we do, you know, do more with community service. Maybe there's a tie-in here where we can do something with the senior projects. And I know a lot of them are community oriented anyway.
Yes.
But if we can avoid getting those projects that are more just, you could tell somebody just like, when, I don't know, I'll do a project on trucks, or I'll do a project on, you know, if it's more connected.
Sure. At the beginning of the year, usually in October, I think it was October this year, maybe, I'm not really sure the actual date, but at the beginning of the year, after they do some research and some brainstorming and things like that, and they come up with an essential question, and, you know, with a lot of help, they come up with a question and what do they want to research, and then they meet with the senior team, and we do that for a day and a half, and they propose their project, their topic. And so some of them, you know, are like, well, not so sure that's going to work. So then we talk them through it. Okay, this is what you could do to make it that much better, more critical thinking, more community oriented. And this year, I think best group of topics that we've had, I mean, in years. There's some really interesting ones. The kids really are engaged in them, and it makes sense for that particular student. Every year we have something to do with trucks. I mean, it might be old for us because we've been on panels for years, but it's new for these kids who are 17 years old and they really want to know about diesel engines, you know, so that's interesting to them. It may be old for us, but it's new to them. So sometimes it's important that we take a step back and look and be like, you know what, this is their thing. They need to do this topic. So we do, you know, vet the topics a little bit so that we can make sure they're high interest and that they do topics that are going to be relevant to them and to society. So.
Okay. Board members, did you have any other questions about senior projects? Or anything senior related? When one of you, go ahead, John.
Just wanted to add that there were a lot of different ideas circulating for graduation. One of them maybe being having, you know, maybe in I know it's not Fort Camp, but Madawaska at the drive-in, something like that could possibly happen, or as Ms. Osier said, something at the soccer field, or depending on where COVID-19 is at the time, possibly virtual. So there's a lot of options out there, and I think a lot of it will really come to tell when, you know, we see when it hits here and what the actual timeline of the virus is. So, but yeah, I think it's be a good idea to get the point out to seniors and see what they'd like once we get the options out. And yeah, looking forward to it. I like it to be really spectacular somehow. Like if it was at the drive-in theater, it'd have to be at night, right? So you could have fireworks at the end of it. I mean, there's just all kinds of neat options that we can add to make it special. And I think this should be really special because it's been a heck of a crazy year, and these guys didn't deserve to have it this way, but this is the way it fell. And I think we owe it to them to make it one awesome night.
The college is doing a virtual graduation, and Aaron Bernstein is doing an excellent job putting it all together. Like we had a couple of meetings and he's just running the show. And so if you have to head in that direction, I would tap him as a resource to see what we're doing. And he's saying shorter is better, so you don't lose people's attention. But I would reach out to Aaron if that's the direction you go.
Thanks, Jake.
I think if I can add something, I think that if you're going to send out a poll to the seniors, and I think you should ask the seniors on how they want to graduate.
Yep.
And give them 2 or 3 choices or no choices. What type of graduation would you like? And if you want to rate them 1 to 3, score, or 1 to 4, like you're pretty used to, that might work. And if you're going to send out a poll and you're asking them about what type of graduation that they want, you should also ask them what they like or dislike, or what they would like to change or not change in the senior projects. And there should be one other question. I don't know what that other question is. It should be, if you're going to send out a poll, send 3 questions at least. That's my recommendation. But I think it's ultimately up to the seniors on how they want to graduate. And just see, you know, first of all, it's going to make them talk because they chat a lot.
I'm sure they do. Anything else for any of the administrators before we go into executive here?
Yeah, I'll just take 1 second and shout out to all the staff that we have working at the schools. I mean, they've really done an amazing job, whether it's cooking, whether it's delivering food, driving the buses, teaching the lessons, tutoring kids. Really have stepped up to the plate on very short notice and done really, you know, more than amazing, spectacular things. So big shout out to them. I think from us, from all the administrators, I think I can speak for everybody, and hopefully the board as well.
Thanks, Rob.
Can I say something as a parent
Sure.
/ teacher?
Sure.
Just as you guys are deciding about, you know, a few things, you know, I'm a teacher, obviously. I have 2 kids who are home every day. And I find it difficult, and I know how to do this stuff. So I can't imagine what other parents are doing and how they're feeling. So just think about that when you're coming up with policies and, end of the year dates and how long we need to be in this. It's mentally exhausting.
Yep.
So just think of that.
It's a whole new job. It's a totally different job. What we've learned as a family is that, we're so used to routines of things, and this is a new routine. But I'll just take, Aiden had a Zoom meeting with his tech center class today. It was supposed to last half an hour. They were on for 4 hours because they just wanted to talk to each other. They just wanted to talk to each other and just catch up. And I mean, the kids are really struggling with this. And in turn, their frustrations are going on to their parents. And in turn, the parents are frustrated because, the reality for so many of our families right now is it's shocking and it's hard, and we have people who are out of work, and we have everything under the sun. So we've asked everyone to do the unthinkable in an unrealistic period of time, and it's to achieve the unachievable. Yet we're trying and we're doing the best that we can, but we just have to be mindful about all that. So thank you, Jocelyn, for sharing.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to go in an executive session?
Well, if I could just say a quick word too, Barry, sorry. I did put out a survey over the weekend. Right now I have 185 responses. So we have about half of the student body between grades 7 to 12 that have responded. And I have several different types of questions, everything from technology, accessibility to, the workload and how they're handling it. And, glad to say that, from all, 185 responses, 100% of them said that it is very easy to get a hold of a teacher. And that's because even though we're telling them, try to put in a regular day, don't overdo it, don't burn out, whatever, they're still answering emails at 8, 9 o'clock at night, because this is the only time these kids are accessible, and so they're really going above and beyond. And as far as workload and things like that, for people, I hope nobody thinks that anyone's taking a back seat out there, especially with our staff. The kids, for the most part, are doing their best and trying to keep up, but nearly 40% across the board. I had 39 point something for CHS and 39 point something for VR, which is very similar from middle school to high school. Said that there's too much. They're struggling dealing with, a lot of these kids are babysitting at home right now. They're really having a hard time keeping up. So that's nearly 40% of our student body right now that's struggling. However, about 59% are saying that it's just about right. High school said there was 2% that actually said they would do more. And for middle school, there was 1.5% that said they would do more. But, these are tough times for a lot of people. And we got to, think of all the different demographics and the different people that we're working with and working for. And I see it. My wife's a teacher, and I talk to a lot of people. When I go shopping, I talk to the students. Teachers are tired. Just in the past week, I've had 2 conversations with teachers, one male, one female, with tears in their eyes. Just, they're burning out. So, that needs to be taken into consideration as well. And, same thing with the kids. A lot of them are struggling. We'd like to think that this is going to be as close to perfect and successful as possible, but it's not. This is an emergency, a situation that we're dealing with. And I hope that, we can do whatever we can to help our students and teachers succeed in the weeks to come here before we reach the end of the year. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Thanks.
It's
For,
not exclusive to teachers too. I mean,
oh my gosh.
our
Yeah.
administrators here, I mean, they're putting on happy faces, but this has been tough. Our kitchen staff, I mean, talk about rock stars. The prep that goes into these meals, the kitchen staff, the ed techs that are working, the custodian bus drivers. It's, yes, their on-site hours are reduced, but they're having to do a full day's work in a half day's shift, and it's been really it's been tough on everyone, and that's just because everyone is emotionally drained at the reality of what the world is right now, and when you start having to pile on all of your responsibilities on top of that, it's a lot. It's a lot.
And let's be real, they're not able to do it on their own. That's why Ben has been there every day. I've been there. John and I were cutting celery and putting together burgers today at 6 o'clock this morning. We're in the cafeteria. Peter Saucier is working a crazy amount of hours, as many of our other staff are. Melanie's been a rock star, balancing this amongst 3 districts as well. It's amazing how people are coming together to work together as best as we can now, even though it's difficult to keep that 6-foot distance, but we're doing what we can, and we're helping each other out. And whether you're an administrator or a teacher or an ed tech or a custodian, everyone's helping each other right now. It's nice to see, at least.
And it sounds to me like, don't take this the wrong way, it sounds to me like you guys need to get back to the regular routine of having kids in school so you can take a break.
Soon, please. Let's do it soon, please.
Are we moving on then?
We are.
Okay, we're gonna go to executive session.
So moved.
First by Kerr,
Yeah.
Second.
second.
Keith, is that a second?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you,
all those in
administrators.
favor, yes?
See you later.
You
Take
got it.
care.
And the
Did you
time,
just block them out there, Ben? Is that what you do? You just sacked them?
they're kicking themselves out there.
God. Anybody need a break?